JSB Talks Digital.
Public Sector Marketing Pros.
Hello and welcome to JSB Talks Digital. I'm Joanne Sweeney-Burke and this podcast is brought to you by Public Sector Marketing Pros. This podcast series is for those of you working in government, a public sector body, a publicly funded programme or a semi-state organisation. You're most likely working in a marketing, communications, digital, social media or a senior leadership role and are passionate about digital communications. Coming up in the second episode of the Public Sector Marketing Pro series, why you need to expand social media across your organisation to get results. I interviewed David Bailey, social media project lead with the National Police Chiefs Council in the UK. I've also got JSB's live coaching column where I map out the key elements of a social media strategy for a public sector or government body. The Diploma Deep Dive provides insights into what I'm teaching public sector marketing pros about auditing your social media profiles. The digital product from the show is my social media strategy checklist. You can download it for free at publicsectormarketingpros.com/social media strategy.
JSB Talks Digital.
The Public Sector Marketing Pros Challenge.
In episode 2, I'm discussing how to make your social media channels deliver better results for you. In my experience, there are a number of reasons why social media is challenging for government bodies. It's predominantly being done manually and many departments aren't leveraging software to maximise time spent publishing and moderating social media channels. Role creep means that social media may have been given as an extra task to a communications professional whose working days are already demanding. Maybe there hasn't been an investment in upskilling staff in strategic social media tactics. Some organisations don't even have a social media strategy and so they have no direction. And then I meet staff who feel overwhelmed and under-resourced. If any of this resonates with you, stay tuned. Use this episode to help give you a new perspective on your social media activity.
Interview.
In each episode, I interview a public sector marketing pro that is stepping up to the challenges facing their organisation in the digital age. This episode's public sector marketing pro is David Bailey. He's social media lead with the UK's National Police Chiefs Council. NPCC is the body that brings together all the chief officers in the UK. David works within the digital policing portfolio, which is designed to develop and deliver the digital elements of their Vision 2025 strategy. By 2025, UK policing intends to make it easier and more consistent for the public to make digital contact. They're also improving their use of digital intelligence and evidence. In this interview, David and I discuss scaling social media knowledge in a conservative and large organisation and how social media lends itself to policing communications.
JSB Talks Digital.
So I'm joined by David Bailey, who is the National Police, Chiefs Council.
Shall I introduce myself? I'm David Bailey. I'm the social media project lead in the National Police Chiefs Council. Even I get confused.
Thank you so much for joining me on JSB Talks Digital.
Thank you. It's great to finally speak to you.
Yeah, because we've been exchanging communications and emails and tweets for many years. I have a shared interest in policing and digital communications, but you're at the front line quite literally. How has the job and policing changed in the last 5 years?
Well, I'd say the 5 years, it's possibly a little bit longer, but we've had a real issue almost accepting that social media was a part of policing for a little while. And then probably going back to 2011, when we had the disorder during the summer, August, that's when we actually saw how we needed to make it part of mainstream business. What we've been doing over the last few years is really trying to understand what policing should be doing, what our communities expect from us, and how do we fit something, a technology that's changing on a 12-hourly basis into a structure that's quite complex and with loads of governance that can make life a little bit difficult at times.
Would you say that social media has aided policing, or has it hindered policing communications?
Police communications absolutely aided it. We've changed massively. The public now expect to be able to ask the police what's happening and get an answer and be able to trust the answer. We're becoming the primary source. And that's not because we're doing a better job than the media or the media are falling away. It's the public want to be able to find out what's happening to them on a channel they want to choose.
So what are the channels that you guys are predominantly using and you find are most beneficial?
It's mainly Facebook and Twitter at the moment. We're really trying hard across the UK into Instagram and Snapchat, but they are a complex channel. Facebook is where the massive levels of engagement happen, and that's where communications teams and local policing teams are really leveraging the public to help us achieve things like finding missing people, identify offenders, or to take action to keep safe. Twitter has become more of a breaking news where you can get the updates out quickly, but there's perhaps less conversation between the community and the police than you'd find on a Facebook audience. But the two audiences are very different. That's what we know. And we're just about to relaunch our survey to find out what the public expect from us by channel. Instagram, again, very similar. It's the fastest growing channel out there. But again, some of the technical aspects of Instagram make it hard for big organizations to implement effectively.
So let's talk about major incidents and emergency response management. You've already mentioned Twitter for breaking news, but whenever there is a world event and major incidents, we all are turning to Twitter, and you're having citizen journalists who are reporting from the scene of whether it's, you know, a terrorist attack or whether it's a major weather event. How is that, again, helping or hindering your work?
Well, again, it's down to the forces, and this is the work I'm developing at the moment about how do we use social media as a contact channel as well as an engagement channel. We've got a number of forces in the UK now where they can accept reports, for instance, from Twitter and Facebook and deal with them as if they were a phone call to our 101 or 999 services. That's got some complexity, but that instant intelligence, I remember when I was on the front line in Staffordshire, there was a large fire. We were able to get an assessment of the scene from the force control room by searching on Twitter, finding out, getting the pictures, understand the extent of it. So long before we can get resources on the ground to feed back at all that level of detail, because when they get to the ground, there's a lot going on, we're able to understand that. But it goes from the quite routine incidents now where we can find information out to help us manage it, to the major complex things that we've seen last summer where, you know, the message coming out from police about what to do, what is the reality, what action to take, it is absolutely pivotal to the communications and to the whole operational response. It's right at the front line of the operational decision maker. What can I find out from social, and how do I get my messages out there quickly?
And let's talk for a moment about scalability of social within police forces and organisations, because once you get buy-in, whether it's from senior management or whether it's from officers on the ground,
yeah,
then your next challenge is, well, how do we scale best-in-class practice when we're adhering to our policies? Have you any examples, or how have you achieved it, or what are you doing?
I think the real battle at the moment is understanding what is best practice, what does good look like. The number of followers or number of retweets isn't an indication of success, and it's very easy to look at the numbers and go, I've had lots of retweets. To me, success needs to be about influence and achieving an outcome. So if we've got a Twitter account serving a local community, I'd really want to see, if I did some visualization of that account, that 80% of those people who are following that account and engaging with the account live or work or have some detailed association with that geographic area, or if it's about a theme such as horses and countryside watch that they're really interested in. To me, that's more successful than seeing one tweet with hundreds of retweets. I want to see more detail about what the influence is and what the outcome is. Do we change people's behavior? Do we find information out? Do we aid the operation by people moving from diverting their journey home to avoid the traffic and reducing the impact? Or do they take action, change their passwords when there's a big spike in cybercrime? That's really what success should look like. How you measure that through social media is really quite challenging. So we've got to perhaps understand what success is first, have an evidence base, and then move it forward. But there's hundreds every day we have success on social media and policing. Every single day. I can talk about missing people where we've saved their lives, only using social media in a targeted way to find the information out at 2 a.m. on a Saturday night, because you've got no media, you've got no other way to get the appeal out. You can do a really targeted response to offenders ringing up themselves and making appointments to be arrested. Those are all fantastic successes. But how you achieve them is part of a wider strategy, and sometimes focusing on just the little wins doesn't really show the massive level of impact you're having by using social media effectively.
How are you training and upskilling officers or staff within the police forces?
We're doing a lot of work, and each force has got its own approach. And even this week, we had a meeting at New Scotland Yard where we brought practitioners in from across the forces to share this experience, to understand. And some of the work we're doing at the moment is, let's pull together our 43 or even more policies that we've got. Let's understand what's common, what's not, what is we can share as quickly best practice. And then I'm doing some work at the moment just to gather all the research in, to gather what is success, and build over the next 6 months, 8 months, a real best practice. This is what good is as a minimum, and these are the things you can do to go even further as we move it forward from the engagement side. With the contact side, we've really got to look at what are the rules about it, how do we secure that best evidence, and how can we give the public a really consistent offer. We've got 43 Home Office forces, we've got Police Scotland, PSNI, we've got British Transport Police, the Military Police, Civil Nuclear Police. Policing's complicated. We've got a lot of forces. How do you know which force area you live in? How do you know which ward you live in? We've got to make it easier for the public to access the right services digitally. And we're working as part of the Digital Public Contact Programme with the new single online home, the digital interactive offer for policing that's really catching a pace. I've never seen in policing in the 15 years I've been in so many forces jump on such one product that's going to really deliver first-class service to the public and benefit policing at the back end as well.
I was going to ask you, my next question was, is there still a fear and an apprehension around engaging in social and using it as a core communications channel? But you've just spoken about the enthusiasm around the digital project. So are we past that corner? Have we turned it?
Yeah, I think we have. And we're almost perhaps adopting social media as the answer to everything, and forgetting that we've got to use the right channel for the right audience for the right purpose. Yes, vast majority of people would prefer to use a digital service for a non-urgent thing, and particularly when you're talking to some of the demographics groups that you've got, people who've got accessibility issues, would much rather use a chat service potentially, or a text-based service. Children and young people, when did a teenager last speak to somebody on a phone? They want to use social accounts, digital accounts to access us, but they don't always see us as relevant. Yet we're putting stuff out there, but not really getting the feedback. So we've got to do a lot more work about understanding what success is, how to use it properly, and what is giving us value. We've got in the region of 2,500 to 3,500 UK police Twitter accounts. How many of them actually are working for the police mission at the moment and delivering service to the public. And if they're just being used for chatting between officers and officers, that's great as well. But let's be clear what the purpose is. That way we can get far more benefit out of it.
And do the social and digital team, do they integrate with the traditional press and communications team, or are they all one?
They tend to be the same team in most forces. We've just done some work across public sector with Comms 2.0 to understand a survey into how big teams are, who's doing what within teams, and it's clear within the emergency services sector, it's mainly corporate comms teams doing the leading in terms of the engagement, along with the local policing teams on the ground. So the police community support officer, the PC on the street or on the road traffic team, and the corporate communications teams. More and more we're seeing a move into the control rooms as well, but it isn't, rarely do you have a digital dedicated team around social in emergency services at the moment.
Yeah, well, I guess it's become so mainstream that we just feel that digital is everybody's responsibility.
Yeah, and I do get a little bit confused sometimes when we put digital in front of everything that we're doing as new, when it's really just core business. Digital's changing the way we work. It just doesn't mean we need a new project for it. We've got to adapt our current practices to cope with it. But yeah, there's masses going on there, and we want as many people as possible to be accessible on social media from within policing. But we've got to make it easy for the public as well to know where the voice is. When something's happening, where do they get the noise, the right message from? Where do they get the place to ask the question? And if they ask a question, when will we get back to them with an honest and clear answer?
One of the initiatives that I really love is the Twitter chats, Ask the Chief.
Yes.
I respect that a lot, because one of the fears is stepping up and stepping out online and being exposed to the public, and you don't have a journalist as a middleman or a middlewoman creating a buffer. But what success or what experience have you had with going front of screen and being truly transparent?
Lots of forces are doing this. I remember doing it, must be 6 years ago, first time we did it with open mic night, when our chief constable in Staffordshire was Mike Cunningham, who's now the leader of the police college in the UK. So we've done it in different ways, and there's for my home force, where I rarely get to visit these days, does Facebook Live with the chief constable once or twice a month. Lots of forces do Twitter. Most of the chief constables in the UK are on Twitter and are there to be accessed. Quite often they actually called the force name and CC at the end or something like that to make them identifiable, and so it's easy for the members of the public in that community to find their chief officer. But lots of our chief officers, lots of our senior leaders are on Twitter, less on Facebook, because we tend to use pages at the moment, but we're exploring the use of groups more and more. And I'm working very closely with Facebook on behalf of policing in the UK to explore what more we could be doing with them. In fact, I was only there 2 days ago at Facebook's headquarters talking to the team about what the opportunities are and how we can work better together to maximise that accessibility of service.
And finally, David, what's your vision? Where do you want to be? Let's not look ahead 5 years, because it's going to change so much.
Yeah.
The next 12 months.
Yeah, I'm just desperately trying to remember my current vision, which I've just published on the blog. But basically, we want the public to be able to choose to use the digital channel of their choice to access a police service, to be confident that they'll get the service that they need, and to be able to use it in choice. But also that the police have got the confidence and skills to actually achieve this and deliver the service in a consistent way. So that's what we want to achieve over the next 18 months, 2 years. What we've got to do is, if we can get that vision right, that we can do this service, then the detail behind that will come, and we'll be able to adapt and change quickly enough to cope with the ever-changing landscape out there.
David Bailey, a pleasure. And I think we should just point out that you didn't hang up on an emergency call. You're at home today.
I'm at home today. I'm working from home. I spend most of my time on the road, so I'm very regularly on the trains, but I have an office in London where I work from. I'm at home in Staffordshire today, catching up on all my emails and detail before I'm back out on the road again next week. Well, listen, an absolute pleasure to finally get the time to have a conversation with you. Super value in it, and I appreciate it, and I know the viewers and the listeners will appreciate you sharing your experiences. No problem at all.
JSB's live coaching column.
In JSB's live coaching column, I tackle the issue of social media scalability and getting results for your valiant efforts. So the big question is, how do you get results from social media with a relatively small team? The playing field of social media keeps changing. Facebook and YouTube are dominant channels. However, Instagram is the fastest growing social network currently. Its evolution as a behind-the-scenes story and video channel has satisfied the masses with its ability to provide a feast for the visual senses. There's always a danger for public sector organisations to jump into social media with a sense of, we must be everywhere. However, take some time to take a look at the types of audiences using each social network and the factors you should consider when deciding which one to focus on and which to grow. Social media for public sector and government agencies is all about trust and transparency by sharing useful information and providing responsive customer service. With this in mind, you need to provide timely updates and share valuable information that will let citizens know that you're working on their behalf, while also encouraging them to respond to your calls to action. Here are 4 key steps to take to ensure your social media strategy is on the right track. Step 1. Establish your tone of voice. One of the critical parts when designing a social media strategy is establishing your voice. Visitors to your channels want consistency of voice. They want to know that they can trust your channels to provide them with accurate information, and they want to have the same experience with your office no matter what they're dealing with. On social media, that means establishing a clear voice and clear guidelines for posting that can be used by anyone who posts through any of your social media accounts. 2. Define your goals. You know that you need a social media presence in order to effectively reach out to people in your country, state, county, or region. In order to understand how well your social media accounts are working for you, you need to define your goals. Consider how, as a government agency, you can measure social media success. These goals should align with the overall communications goals of your department. Step 3. Create a posting schedule. Like any government body, you need a solid posting schedule to help you ensure that your social media profiles remain active and engaging. Citizens don't want to follow government agencies that rarely provide them with the information they need. So, a failure to provide that information can lead to a lack of trust or concerns over transparency. Step 4. Prepare a policy for social media within your organisation. You need to set standards for your channels. While you want to give all of your followers a voice, there may come a point when you need to remove comments from your profiles. For example, you might want to remove comments that are filled with profanity or that deliberately attack another member of your community. Public sector staff are often personally attacked on social media, and this is never acceptable and should not be tolerated. As a government agency, keeping your social media channels current is a critical part of ensuring that your citizens have all the information they need. This will help you build trust and transparency for your office. Take the time now to review your strategy, and I promise you it will be time well spent. If you have a particular marketing or digital communications challenge right now, get in touch and I'll create a podcast around your issue. You don't have to come on the show or give me specific internal details. Simply outline what the challenge is and what your objectives are to achieve success. Then leave the rest to JSB. You can send me your challenge via email to info@publicsectormarketingpros.com or send me a tweet to @tweetsbyJSB.
Diploma Deep Dive.
In this part of the show, I take you behind the scenes of the Diploma in Digital Communications for Public Sector. Today's Diploma Deep Dive focuses on Module 2, how to develop a social media strategy for a government agency. The aim of this module is to help you audit your existing social media strategy and activities, develop a 12-month plan, and assess what new features and content you will start producing. By auditing your social media strategy and refining what you are doing well, you can cancel out tasks that don't provide any results. It's also an opportunity to revisit social media priorities for the year ahead and set out how you will achieve them by developing a 12-month roadmap. There are 9 learning outcomes in this module. It's very practical. First of all, we take a look at the global social media landscape, which social networks top the leaderboard and which are coming fast behind. We then look at a guide on how to audit your social media strategy and your channels. I provide a step-by-step breakdown of each social media channel. Then we look at setting 12-month goals, establishing tone of voice, and how often you should post on each channel. I provide a template around community management, and we also look at the metrics that matter in social media. Too often, organizations look at top-line figures such as fans. Then there's a webinar on social media trends for government and public sector bodies before we finish up with a social media use policy for your organization. As always, on successful completion of the modules, learners get their CPD certificate that is recognised in 22 countries. Without a social media strategy, you won't be able to measure success or indeed achieve your goals. Revisiting how you approach social media and reviewing your strategy is necessary before you jump into channel-specific strategies. Learners taking my diploma review their strategy before we work on mini strategies for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and of course, the remainder of the social networks. If you want to find out more about the Diploma in Digital Communications for Public Sector, log on to publicsectormarketingpros.com/diploma. You can also buy the modules individually and you can start at any time of the year.
Digital takeaway.
The digital product from this show is my social media strategy checklist ebook. You can download it for free at publicsectormarketingpros.com/social media strategy. I'm also offering loyal podcast listeners a 10% discount to take the Diploma in Digital Communications. You can use the promo code PublicSectorPro101 on registration. Find out more at publicsectormarketingpros.com/diploma.
JSB Talks Digital.
Thank you so much for tuning into the second episode of JSB Talks Digital for Public Sector Marketing Pros. If you think you have a case study to share from your organisation, then please get in touch. Drop me an email to info@publicsectormarketingpros.com and you can find yourself and your organisation on the show. If you want to continue the discussion with your peers, join our free Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Public Sector Marketing Pros. You'll be asked to answer a few questions to make sure you're right for the group. Why not get your weekly JSB Talks Digital premium content into your inbox? Each week, I provide you with free public sector marketing content. It's an epic blog post or a podcast, a video, or maybe even a webinar. Never miss what you need to know from one expert and one reliable source. Don't forget, JSB Talks Digital also has a weekly show that you can find on any podcast platform. I'm currently up to 118 shows, so there's lots of valuable content about social media and digital marketing. You can subscribe on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Google Play. Sign up to my weekly e-zine at publicsectormarketingpros.com/subscribe. You can also get social with us. You can follow me on Twitter at tweetsbyjsb, follow the organisational account on Twitter at Public Sector Pro, connect with me on LinkedIn, or like our Facebook page, Public Sector Marketing Pros. I'm Joanne Sweeney-Burke. This is JSB Talks Digital. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.
JSB Talks Digital.
Public Sector Marketing Pros.